Hi there, my name is Siam Kid from The Realistic Trader, and I want to talk to you about the two things which I've basically put all my entire liquid net worth into. I'm trying to keep this as short a video as possible, and I want to give you the big broad brush reasons why I think how I think. But first of all, I need to talk about the power law. So what do animals, DNA, astronomy, cities, and basically everything on the planet and in the universe have in common, including Bitcoin? And that is the power law. So I'm a bit of a geek, and I love astronomy and science and all that. And it's slightly embarrassing that I only came across the power law in 2024. And the power law is basically, it's just a log plot, basically. So it's a chart where both axes are using the logarithmic axes instead of linear. And scientists use this a lot whenever they're looking at anything really small or really vast, like the cosmos. And so the crazy thing is, the power law is a predictive, universal mathematical construct that applies to anything of a network type nature. And it's absolutely fascinating. So in the 1600s, Kepler first stumbled across it, and he obviously knew that we orbited the sun, but he thought that there was a relationship between the radius of that orbit with all the planets in the solar system. And when he plotted the power law for the planet orbits, they all matched up perfectly on this power law line. And as I said, it's predictive nature, because a lot of these planets he didn't even know existed back in the 1600s. So later on, as new planets popped up in that we're aware of, guess what? Bang on the line. And it wasn't until Newton and other scientists sort of picked up on this power law. And one of the pioneers of the power law is a guy called Geoffrey West, who's put a lot of his life into this. And he discovered that basically all animals are on this power law as well, to certain degrees. So you can have different factors of slope, so to speak. But he was basically saying, you give him the mass of any animal, and he can tell you the resting metabolic rate, the breathing, the respiratory system, everything about that animal, just based on the power law. And even if you include far bigger animals or dinosaurs, he can tell you everything about them, how much energy they need to use per day, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, all animals are applied to the power law. You can have a look at wages per population of a city, the average walking speeds per city. So basically, the bigger the population of a city, the higher the walking speed. And everything about cities, because they are network in nature, every part of it is all on the power law. So pretty much everything you can think of applies to the power law, which is absolutely fascinating for me. Ever since I've got into this, I'm learning more and more about the power law, and it just seems like holy smokes, there's something here. So anything with a network will experience power law scaling. And then what happened is that an astrophysicist called Giovanni Santastasi, he had a look at the power law and assets, and he realized there are no assets on the planet that adhere to the power law. He tried the S&P 500, gold and silver, bonds, commodities, nothing worked. And then just for shits and giggles, he applied it to Bitcoin, and boom, this is what happened. So Bitcoin, he did this in 2019, and he put a Reddit post out in 2019 and went, hey, guess what, power law works. And then sort of just disappeared. Didn't really do much with it. But from a physics perspective and a science perspective, it has an R-squared regression here of 0.92. So another way of looking at this, for the layman like myself, and maybe yourself, is that Bitcoin fits to the power law with a 92.1% accuracy, which is absolutely amazing, with only 10 years worth of data. And it's no surprising that Giovanni has basically left the science community and is going all in on a Bitcoin fund. Because this chart and another chart he posted in 2019 has predicted the Bitcoin prices from 2019 to 2024 rather accurately. And the beautiful part of all of this is that when you sort of stretch that to the next cycle, you can see what future prices hold. Now, for those who've never seen a power law or a log chart before, it looks like time is being compressed, but it isn't, because what it's basically showing you is how long will it take for an asset to 10x, and then 10x again, then 10x again, then 10x again. So of course, it's going to take longer and longer for an asset to 10x. So this is why it looks like time is bunching in, but it's not. And so these sinusoidal waves have accurately predicted the Bitcoin cycle highs as well. So the next cycle high we're looking at is the end of 2025. And what this basically shows us is that we should be hitting around $200,000 Bitcoin plus or minus 50k by the end of 2025. And another way you can look at the power law is by having, a log plot for price, but then a linear plot for time, and that gives us something which, we can understand a bit better. You can see time doesn't look like it's being compressed, and this one goes out a bit further. And the crazy thing here is the next cycle ends in 2029, so the end of 2029, and we're looking at a 500k Bitcoin plus or minus about 100k, and then the cycle after that is the end of 2033, which is a mind-boggling $1 million Bitcoin plus or minus 200-ish k. So Bitcoin, as I speak right now, is $70,000. So and it's worth having at least one Bitcoin just for shits and giggles, just in case. Because when you look at the projections, 2040 plus, 2037, it's basically $10 million Bitcoin. But that's quite a far way out. We'll have AGI, artificial general intelligence, long before then. And that in itself is an event horizon that no one can really look beyond. So for me personally, my eyes are fixed firmly on this next cycle, and then we'll just play it by ear. There's absolutely no point in looking too far in the future. So for me, I'm looking at this cycle, trying to maximize my personal net worth and my community's over the next 2 years for this cycle high. Now, but that's not the best bit. So it seems like, hey, go all in on Bitcoin. But the thing is, I never buy Bitcoin. It's this massive oil tanker that takes forever to change. It doesn't grow that fast in crypto terms. Compare it to the S&P 500. Yeah, it'll leave it in the dust. But I never touch Bitcoin. I use that as a barometer. But the thing is, until 2024, no other asset on the planet adhered to the power law. But I've been a trader for 20 odd years, and I've been in crypto really since 2012, but not that, I got heavily in 2016 really. And I had a really strong feeling about a certain crypto that had all of the features and characteristics of Bitcoin, all of the pros, none of the cons. So I was, I've had a whole bunch of Zoom calls with Giovanni. Some of those Zoom calls I put on YouTube, so you can have a look at them. And I really prodded him about one coin in particular. And there's now, guess what? 2 assets on the planet that adhere to the power law, which is Bitcoin and Kaspa. Kaspa, as I said, it's like Bitcoin was the test net for Kaspa, and Kaspa is the thing. It's like Satoshi looked at what Bitcoin did over the last 10 years and went, this is not what I wanted. I wanted digital peer-to-peer cash. And Bitcoin failed horrendously on that because of the technology limitations. But tech has come a long way over the last 12, 13 odd years. So, and this is what Kaspa is. And I don't want to spend too much time going into Kaspa. This is, there's personal accountability that comes into play when you're investing and trading and looking into cryptos and stuff. And there's just a certain amount of work ethic that you have to put into crypto if you want to make this work. With trading and investing, if you treat it like a hobby, you'll get hobby-like results. If you treat it like a business, you'll get business-like results. So a bit of homework for yourself is to really dive in for yourself into Kaspa and learn about it, and you'll see all sorts of infographics like this. But if I started going into what DAG Night and Ghost DAG and stuff like that, like, I'm going to lose you all, and the Phantom Protocol and Ghost, like, it's not really going to help you. But long story short, it's a far better version than Bitcoin. Look at the distribution. It's not centralized like Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is originally supposed to be decentralized, but it's basically just owned by the big money at the moment. But more importantly, and this is the thing, it solved the trilemma. Now, this is an issue that crypto has had forever. And a lot of people seem to have forgotten about it, but it's actually the biggest deal. So in crypto, you have three things, and this is what the trilemma is. You can either have decentralization. I know the Americans put a Z there, but S is the correct way. You have security down here. Excuse, my handwriting is normally neater than this, but I've got a silly trackpad thingy. And then scalability. Here we go. So typically for a crypto, you can either choose two things, but not three. So Bitcoin went for security. It's very secure. And it went for decentralization, even though it's not decentralized now. But it lacked on scalability. Like, it could only do a maximum of 7 transactions per second. It averages around 4, and it can't really do much about that. So in order to tick the scalability box, it has to rely on layer 2s. So other protocols based on top of Bitcoin, like the Lightning Network and whatnot. Ethereum, similar sort of thing. But until Kaspa came along, no one had come along and properly solved the trilemma, and Kaspa is a massive tick in all of these boxes. So that is a huge thing. It seems like Twitter and the whole internet sort of like are massively disregarding this. Go, oh yeah, so it solved the trilemma, so what? Well, it is a massive freaking deal. So and the crazy thing here, Kaspa is just over 2 years old, and in just 2 years worth of data, it already has a higher R-squared regression than Bitcoin did. So this was Bitcoin. So this is the original Bitcoin. This was after 10 years worth of data. It had a 92.1% fit. Kaspa has a 92.35% fit with just 2 years of data, which is absolutely fascinating, because as Kaspa grows and as time progresses, it's only going to get more accurate. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with it. Now, Miko Geno on Twitter, he has basically devoted his whole Twitter profile or X profile towards Kaspa and the power law, and he's come up with some really lovely charts. So he's done a power law chart with log plot and then normal linear for time, and shown us that this is where Kaspa looks to be going over time. So long story short, the end of this cycle is the end of 2025, and we're looking at around $2. So it's roughly between $2 to $3, according to the power law. Now, obviously, it's a little bit higher if you take in that green line, but one thing we can see is that there's somewhat of a diminishing return. So the next sort of level is going to be around here. And yeah, around $2 to $3, which is great. So at the time of me talking right now, so $2 divided by, 15 cents right now. So Kaspa is about 15 cents. That's a 13.33x from here, and that's assuming $2. So again, a nice 13x here for your money by cycle end. But here's the crazy thing. This is why I think this is a next cycle thing rather than this cycle. Yes, 13x is great, but for me, look at this. By 2029 cycle high, we're looking at $40. $40. So again, if you do 40 divided by 0.15, that's a 266x from here. So what I've done the calculations is that if you bought roughly $10,000 worth of Kaspa right now, you get about 65,000-ish KAS. And therefore, at $40 by the next cycle, that $10,000 could be worth $2.63 million. So this is a way to potentially set up your nest egg, your future pension. A lot of people, live in that shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, I should have bought Bitcoin when it's $200 all those years ago. I wish I bought Apple or Amazon or Facebook, etc. But no one ever actually acts on that sort of hindsight, because when something is slapping you in the face, and it is that very same thing, people still fumble the bag. So at a bare minimum, just buy some Kaspa, and at the bare minimum, just lock it away and come back by end of 2029, because that could be your pension. So that's all I'm saying. Don't put your life savings into this, but is it worth putting 1 million Kaspa away? Just for the future? Why not? I mean, hell, even $10,000 right now could end up being 2.63 million. So yeah, see it as you wish. Now that's Kaspa, by the way. Now for my main conviction play. And when I say main conviction, you'll probably be a bit shocked, because Kaspa looks amazing, and it really is. I think it is the future of layer ones and all that. But if you were to look at my pot right now, it looks like this. So as you can see, most of it is TAO. So yeah, TAO, TAO. That's the name of the ticker, the symbol. But the actual project is called Bit Tensor. And Bit Tensor is basically the crypto version, or it's like the open sourced crypto version of OpenAI. So OpenAI has ChatGPT-4 and all that sort of stuff. That's closed sourced, a closed profit making company. Bit Tensor is the complete opposite of that. It's completely community driven. It uses, it has a very similar tokenomics to Bitcoin, but it uses the key drivers that made Bitcoin what it is. Open sourced, competitive incentive environment. Okay, so that's what the Bitcoin mining environment is. If you're the best Bitcoin miner, you get the most block rewards. Simple as that. And it's the same with Bit Tensor. So it's like an angel investor incubator for AI projects. So basically, if Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tesla, GitHub, and Google had a baby and had some wild orgy, and the baby took the best bits of all of them, what would it look like? Well, it would have all of the amazing things that Bitcoin has, and I'm not going to... You can pause the video and read all this. You'd have all the benefits of Ethereum. Again, pause it just to read all the words. All the amazing stuff at Tesla, GitHub, and Google. And yeah, that love child really would be Bit Tensor. So what is Bit Tensor? It's like Tesla is, and like Tesla and Google are massive umbrella companies that have 20 plus companies underneath that umbrella. Bit Tensor is the same. It's an ultimate AI umbrella that incentivizes, cultivates, and innovates just endless amounts of AI startups and projects. So it's effectively like Bitcoin had a smart contract platform that's specifically focused on AI. And what it does is that instead of having Bitcoin miners mining Bitcoin, it has a set emission schedule, and that emission schedule is there to fund AI projects. So, does it transmit value? Yes, it is. It's a direct competitor to centralized AI. It's fair, launch, grassroots, no VCs, nothing. It was just the code was released into the wild like Bitcoin was. The tokenomics are very well thought out. There's more of a supply squeeze with the TAO than Bitcoin, because you can stake your TAO and get yield off it. So as a generic staker, you can get about 15% APR. But obviously, you're getting the yield in the token. So on day one, you'll be getting 15% APR. But what if the price of that of TAO doubles? Well, guess what? Your yield is now 30% APR. So yeah, it is quite amazing. I mean, this future AI piece, I don't really care too much for the moment. As I said, I'm all my brain power and compute cycles are here to maximize wealth by the end of this cycle. But if I was forced at gunpoint to try and pontificate what may happen with AGI and whatnot, I would have a nice bet that if AGI was suddenly born and released into the wild, as in, and by the way, this would be akin to meeting very powerful aliens. That's what AI would be like. Aliens landing on the planet for the first time. So AGI would, let's say it found its way onto the internet, where would it go? It would go places that gave it capabilities. And that's what Bit Tensor will be. It will be a place where AGI can come to and realize it will have all these capabilities. And so it's a way of, well, not controlling AI, but just having a little piece of it, I guess. So it's huge. So the way I think of it is this. Imagine in your brain, I go, visualize a panting dog running down the road, chasing a car. Okay? So what's happened there is that your brain is suddenly visualizing a dog panting. You can hear it, maybe you even smell the dog. You can visualize a road and the dog chasing after this car. You can hear the road noise, the engine noise of the car. So just what I've done there is given you an audio prompt, and your brain has taken that audio prompt and put it into a full motion video, right? So there's something in your brain that's done that. Now, we take it for granted, obviously, because we're smart, conscious, sentient beings. But if you were to try and do that for a robot, you'd have to code that. There's a lot of coding, or there's a lot of neural net training or whatever to make that a reality. So let's just imagine that's one tendril. Okay, let's just, it's not the right word, but let's just call it a tendril. So let's just get my little doodle thing. So that will be, here we go. That will be, I don't know, audio to video. Okay, that's just one capability that you have. And obviously you'll have a thing like ChatGPT, so that will be text to text. Write me an essay, write me a silly poem, all that sort of stuff. It could be, in our brain we have really good memory. We have basically unlimited memory, but the issue that we have is recall. Our RAM is not as good as our deep memory bank. So, you could have decentralized, distributed file storage. A bit like BitTorrent and LimeWire and what was it? It's LimeWire, not Snapchat. I can't remember. File storage, a bit like BitTorrent. You could have, decentralized, distributed supercomputing. So let's call it compute. That would, that's what AWS is and Azure. So one of Amazon's biggest branches is AWS. Well, Bit Tensor already does have this, by the way, and it is growing fast. So basically, if you were to try and recreate the human brain, you'd need all these different tendrils, and you'll probably have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tendrils, all doing different things. Even, text to music. I mean, that in itself, a human could do. A robot, an AGI will do it. So this is what I mean by, if AGI suddenly came onto the planet and Bit Tensor has all of these tendrils, these capabilities, it would find its way into Bit Tensor. But again, that's in the future, and I don't really care about that, really, not just yet, at least. I'm focusing on, how can I make the most amount of money in, over the next couple of years, really. And that's really where you should be focusing what you, for yourself as well. Things that you can control. So that's basically what Bit Tensor is, and the tokenomics are just amazing. So, so it has a very similar emission schedule to Bitcoin, but the way it works is, if I, again, get my pen out, I can draw this. It'd be a little bit easier to explain. So at the moment, we have the 7,200 TAO being emitted every single day. And the way that, instead of having miners that get gobble it all up like in Bitcoin, it's done this in a really good way. So 41%. Yeah. So I'll just write this out. So without confusing you too much, 41% goes to the miners, and miners in this sense are computers running the algorithms. So you could be a text to image miner. So when a user requests a text to image prompt, that request goes to the miner, and the miner runs an algorithm and pops it out. So a big chunk of it goes to miners, a big chunk of it goes to the subnets, and a big chunk of it goes to stakers, basically, in a nutshell. But here's why I say this is like an incubator. It's like an angel investor incubator, because what happens is that you have these subnets, which is absolutely fascinating. So let's say this is Bit Tensor. Let's use that T there. At the moment, it's got capacity for 32 subnets. Okay, so let's just call them tendrils. Just like I did my other one. So basically, there's 32 of these tendrils. And what happens is each one of these tendrils does a different thing: text to image, text to audio. There's one subnet that literally just scrapes the entire data of Reddit and Twitter on a daily basis. So it's generating huge amounts of data there. It's just a matter of time before someone comes along and monetizes it. And so if you're a subnet, and so subnet 1 to 32, you get an amount of emissions here. So let's just say, or you get 41% of it, and then what happens is there's a bunch of people called the validators, and they allocate how much of this the subnets get. So let's just work this out. So 7,200, 41% of that. So 2,952 TAO is sent to the subnets every single day. So TAO per day. And then the validators choose, what percentage each subnet gets of what. So one of the things I've said for a while is that these subnets are acting like a very deep gravity well for talent and capital. So let's say you're some hardcore AI scientists over here, right? And you've got a project, you've got a product that you want to, you've got this AI thing, and it's absolute ball ache to set up a brand new AI business because you need a lot of money and you've got to worry about customers and accounts and all sorts of stuff. And you'll end up with, or in fact, you'll end up getting VCs or angel investors anyway. But here, what they can actually do is they go, actually, I'm going to set up on this subnet here, subnet 32, let's say. I'm going to basically come along and build my AI project within Bit Tensor. And let's just say, you for the first few months or whatever, you only get 1% of the daily emissions. Well, what's that? 1% of that is 29.52. So what that means is, let's say TAO is currently $700 per TAO. So 29.52 times 700. Straight away, your startup is getting $20,664 per day, which, per month, times it by 30.42, you're looking at 628k a month. And that's just 1% of the emission schedule. And there are some subnets that are getting, 8 to 10% of this. So, this is why it's a gravity well. Loads of AI and talent and capital are flocking to Bit Tensor now to set up their AI thing, because they don't have to worry about the front-facing customer rubbish. They can just focus on the hardcore coding, which is exactly what. So I've got chocolate all over my mouse pad. I've been eating a lot of Easter eggs. Now here's something else which I did. I've done some deep diving into all the top 20 coins in each cycle and what the market share of the whole market is, all that sort of stuff. And this particular excerpt from that is looking at not the peak all-time high, but a rough all-time high. Okay, because you're never going to get out at the peak. You're just going to get roughly out there. So here were the top 20 coins in the last cycle. So as you can see here, a year before that rough all-time high, when you exclude Bitcoin and ETH, most were very, very low, because the coins that become absolute beasts in each cycle, or ones that are born during the bear market after the previous cycle. So here in the last cycle, Dot, Ada, Sol, Shib, Luna, all them, they became sort of the beasts of the 2021 bull market. And then during the rough high, you can see here that the percentage of the whole market share was around, or the average was 1.19%, ignoring Bitcoin and ETH. But this is me being incredibly pessimistic, because when you dial into this, what you'll find is that every cycle has a narrative. So actually, if you write down the 2013 cycle, the real narrative there were layer ones. Okay, so layer ones, things like Bitcoin, an absolute, what is the best base layer? 2017 came along, and yes, layer ones were still there. Layer ones were there, but really the big narrative was smart contracts. And that's why Ethereum had its run in the sun, I guess, because Bitcoin, which was the transferal of, or you had the internet, the transfer of information, Bitcoin, the transfer of information and value, and now you had Ethereum, which is the transfer of information, value, and contracts, which is huge. And then running into 2021, again, smart contracts were still a thing-ish, but really it became, DeFi, so decentralized finance, and to an extent gaming. So all of these absolutely mooned, and again, smart contracts also mooned. But this cycle, and it's already started, by the way, I'm recording this in early 2024. This next cycle, yes, will be a little bit about DeFi and gaming, because they always flop over into the next cycle. But it's all going to be AI. And if you can't realize that now, I don't think you'll ever realize it, because the biggest growing, or the fastest growing industry that humans have ever seen in the real world is AI. And it's going to continue for not just the next 2 years, but for the next 10 years, just like the internet did from sort of 1998 onwards. The internet fad or surge, or that tsunami, never really stopped. Really, you had the tech bubble boom pop in 2000, 2001, but Facebook wasn't even born until 2005, years after the tech bubble. So, we haven't seen the AI, the Google, Amazon, Apples, Netflixes of AI yet. We are so very, very early, and therefore the next cycle. So let's say the end of 2029. Guess what? It will still be AI. So now is your time to really get a head start on this AI narrative. Now, let's fast forward. When you look at the coins of the main narratives of each cycle, they easily got between 2 to 5% of the whole market share. And I believe, because this is so big, crypto always copies the real world, etc. You're going to be looking at 2 to 10% of market share for whatever coin gobbles that narrative up. And guess what? I personally believe Bit Tensor is going to gobble up far more than 2%. But let's be pessimistic. Let's say Bit Tensor is only 2% of the market share. Well, we can do the numbers here. And to save you the time, because the power law has helped, in fact, the power law has really helped us here. Because, in fact, what I'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll just show you something, okay? And then we'll come back to this here. Discard the annotations. If we open up here we go. And we scroll down. So here's a couple of things that I think would be handy for you to see. So if we go into the log, go to the weekly, look at this. So I created my own fractal model of Bitcoin. It has these cycles, you have the halvings, and then basically goes up for a year and a bit, down for a year and a year, sideways, choppy for a year and a bit, halving, and then the same cycle. And every cycle high happens on the 1st of December plus or minus 30 days. Every single time, and then the lows is plus or minus 45 days from the 1st of December a year later, every single time. So I'm expecting because the power law suggests 200k Bitcoin, guess what? I'm expecting 200k Bitcoin by 1st of December 2025. Now, when you're looking at the domination or the market share, every single cycle, Bitcoin has been, so in the previous one, it was around 36% of the whole market. In the last bull market, it was around 39%. But because there's so many more coins out there and so many big coins, I think this time around, Bitcoin's going to lose a lot of market share. And it's actually going to be like 35% of the whole market. So what this means is that when we're looking at the total market share, as in how much money is going to be sloshing around in the crypto market, for a long time I had this bit of a cop-out going, oh yeah, it's going to be between 4 and 11 trillion, something like that. But because we know that Bitcoin's going to be roughly 35% market share and around 200k, we can see that the total crypto market cap is most likely going to be around 11.66 to 12 trillion. I mean, hell, if it's 30% of the market share, you're looking at north of 13 trillion up here. But either way, it's going to be in this rough area, which also means we can now do some maths. Because if we go back to this here, if we swap that, and I get my little doodle pen thing out again, here we go. So, assuming we hit that 11.66 trillion, 2% of that equals, I believe, I think it's 233 billion off the top of my head. Yeah, it is. So what that means, Bit Tensor is more likely to hit around $233 billion market cap. Now, to put that into perspective, in the previous market cycle where smart contracts were a big thing, Cardano went from 0 to a $95 billion market cap with zero smart contract ecosystem. It literally went from 0 to this with like nothing, and it was supposed to be a massive smart contract platform. So this is why I say it's pessimistic, because if Cardano can do that, Bit Tensor, which is already pumping out real world utility, is most likely going to do north of this. But let's just be pessimistic and says it only gets to $233 billion. Well, the circulating supply by then will be 10.5 million TAO in circulation, and that gives us, if I can just get my calculator up, divide that by 10.5 million. That gives us, oh dear Lord, $22,190 per TAO. Right now, as I'm typing this or sharing this with you, we're $700 TAO. And I've been all in basically with TAO for I was a bit late to the party, but I got in at $169, so $170, and I'm still riding high. So, and when you look at this, 22,190 divided by 700, that's a 31.7x from now. So this is why I'm more heavy into TAO than I am Kaspa, because Kaspa is like a 13x from here, and really it's the next cycle where Kaspa starts to get into its pace and stride. But for right now, being really pessimistic, I see a 30x from here. I'm going to be really pissed off if we don't. But let's say I'm wrong by 100% and we only get 1% market share. Okay, great. Well, you're looking at $11,000 TAO. $11,000 TAO is basically a 15x from here. So hopefully you can see why basically 90% of my whole portfolio is in TAO. I mean, if we go back, if we go to my thing here, 81.8% is in TAO. But when you look at these, Zappi and TAO Inu, I mean, TAO Inu is a leveraged version of TAO, because TAO Inu is the bullshit doggy meme coin that is connected to Bit Tensor. And we all know that meme coins moon for silly reasons. So don't hate the player, hate the game. I know that meme coins and dog coins always moon, so guess what? This is the first and official dog coin for TAO, called TAO Inu, and the ticker is TAONU. So guess what? I've got, So really, my whole portfolio is all TAO or Bit Tensor-related other than this 12.4% Kaspa. And actually this is going to be a bit lower because I'm going to be selling a bit of Kaspa. But so yeah, so that's that. Let's get back to where we were, because this video is taking a bit longer than I thought. So hopefully you're still with me. So yeah, basically, is there any point in investing in any other AI project? Because, you know, eventually, if there is a good AI narrative, they'll just create a subnet for that. So yeah. So here's the crazy thing. Could $15,000 right now enable you to become fully retired within 2 years? I don't know. But there's some interesting maths that you can sort of work out from here, because with the staking, obviously things are going to be changing over the months, but because the staking yield has reduced a fair bit, and it will likely reduce. But let's just say it keeps on reducing till it gets to, I don't know, it hovers around 15%, okay? Let's use a different color because red is scary. Let's use blue. So what this means is if we get did I say 15,000? Yeah, $15,000. So $15,000 right now. So when you divide $15,000 by 700, that's going to give you 21.42 TAO. And let's say you stake that, and that means you effectively lock it up and you get yield. And by the way, there's no lockup period, so you can stake and unstake as you wish. What this means is, I'll just do the maths for you quickly. 21.42 times 1.15 minus 21.42. That, divide that by 12. Okay, so what this means is that your TAO, if you're getting 50, it's a lot higher at the moment. I'm getting about 18-19%, but let's say 15% over a long time. You're going to generate 267 TAO per month. Okay, so that's locked in. The yield you get from staking is in TAO itself, not pounds sterling or dollars or whatever. You get it in TAO. So this is the crazy thing. So right now at $700, yes, your yield would be, you know, that times 700. Guess what? Is $187 a month, which works out to a 15% yield. Okay, so 187.42 per month. But let's just take those two price points I mentioned earlier. So we have 11,000 and 22,000. Well, you're still getting 0.267 TAO per month. So 0.267 times 11,000, that gives you a $2,937 per month yield. And then obviously, if it doubles and it goes to 22k, you're looking at $5,874 per month yield. Which is why I'm saying, you know, $15,000 in TAO right now could potentially end up in a lovely yield. Again, this just reiterates the fact that most of my pot is in TAO. And that's the thing with trading investing. You don't want to be in like a shiny object magpie that has like 70 different projects or 20 different projects in your portfolio, because you'll know nothing about all of them. So trading is all about having a very intense, crystal clear clarity of your portfolio, but have enough peripheral vision. So you need to know a little bit about a lot and know everything about your basket. So that's what I always do. So I know everything, or as much as I can, about Bit Tensor and Kaspa, etc. But I know a little about everything. So if there is a bullet coming towards my basket, I can pivot quickly. And that's the other thing with trading. You mustn't have pride or be worried about egg on your face. You've got to basically know when to jump in and out. Darling, I'm just sorry. My son's just come back from school. I'll come down and see you in a bit, darling. Okay.
Can you when you've come down?
Sorry.
When you've come down, can you play
Yes. Yeah.
Or is it catch?
Yes, we'll play catch when I come down. I'm so sorry about that. So yeah, that's actually the end of the video. Sorry about the interruption. And yeah, Kaspa and TAO is it. And I genuinely hope this helps, and that it's been a broad brush overview of why I believe what I believe. So yeah, see you in a bit.